So we are very excited to have with us Ms. Suja Chandy, the Chief Sustainability Officer and the Managing Director of SAFIN, to share her insight on a leader's perspective of transition from campus to career. So welcome to the section, ma'am. So, and to introduce about the section and the speaker, I welcome Ms. Meena ma'am, the Vice President and the Head of Operation of SkillActz. So welcome to the section, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, so finally, I welcome all the participants who have joined the section today. So let's make this an interactive section. And students, please note, in the end of the section, we will be sharing a form. So kindly fill the form to receive the participation certificate. So over to you, Meena ma'am.
Thank you, Priya. It's a great pleasure to introduce Suja. I first encountered or met with Suja as when she was a mentor for the another program that we do where we have aspiring leaders, women leaders who want to go up the career in their career, and she was one of the first mentors that we had. So I'm really thrilled to have you on our show today, Suja. This is our 30th episode, and what I would like to so introducing you is everybody is in for a treat because Suja has got a, like, if you look at her LinkedIn profile, there is so much that she has done. So there are too many things to be said. So I'll just very briefly say that the session that she's going to do is about, shaping futures. She's already mentioned about this the small little thing that you have to start with to be better prepared and come ready for for anything that you're going to do. So her preparation has been, she's a BA psychology student from University of Kerala. She's done an MBA from MG University and has done multiple things to grow in her career. From there, she has worked with companies like Nissan Digital. She's worked with KPMG. She's worked with Invest India, where Make in India, she was the one of the people who helped the overall promotion of the whole program, of the activities in all sectors for the under the Make in India program. She's a member on board of directors of the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. She's worked globally in multiple sectors. Now she is back in Trivandrum, and she's heading Zafin. She's been a person who's helped to grow companies. So she's done courses in project management. She's done courses in competitive intelligence, market analysis, multiple things. It's a way to, for especially the youngsters who are here, to, when you look at her profile and you look at what she's doing now and how she has come to the top of her career, and may she have more growth there. uh, the constant learning that has been, I think, a part of her, and constantly knowing what else can be done to, and what the way, how the industry is changing, and to be better prepared for it. I think that is what I have understood from looking at her profile. I think she'll have a lot more and so much more from her own words to say, which I'm sure will inspire you to be also people who will aspire to do more. Very briefly, just about SkillActz. We are a digital platform. It is an initiative of Trinity, primarily looking at how we can enhance careers, transform careers for people, and help to bring with employability skills. So we have students from across 1,500 colleges, that is in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and parts of Karnataka, who are on our platform. We Everything is free for the students who are on our platform, and what we are also doing is parallelly helping companies to screen the candidates. So work as an extended HR arm of companies to help candidates to find the jobs of their choice. The advantage that many of the students have when they are a part of SkillActz is they get to use the platform, all the assessments tools which are there, the tips that we are giving them, the kind of curated content that we have put up on the platform for them. At the same time, because when we screen them, we have already screened and we have sort of got an idea about the candidate, so we can help them to get the job. So if unfortunately the first job doesn't work out, we can always give them an opportunity for another job. So there are about 600 plus job openings right now on SkillActz. So that is so I would encourage the students to really make use of the SkillActz platform, because it will not only help you in your employability skills, improving it, and also to see the kind of jobs which are emerging and which are there on the platform. All right. So over to you, Suja. Thank you so much, and a very, very warm welcome from all of us. We have been wanting you for a long time, but obviously you're a person who's extremely busy. But we are ever so grateful for the fact that you've taken the time to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and my apologies again. I stood you all up for a few minutes, actually more than a few minutes, and like you said, it's a good segue, I think, into this. You need to be always prepared, and Murphy's law is always going to happen, and this is something that reminds me during my time in PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was in consulting. I was a young consultant, senior consultant. This was in Toronto, and we had this Korean partner who insisted that if you are on time, that is, so if the meeting starts at 6 o'clock and you come in at 6, you're already late. So you have to be 5 minutes before the meeting starts and waiting, and that was pre-COVID. So you actually are in the meeting room, and what he did was, irrespective of your level, if you show up late after the partner enters, and he's the main guy who headed our team, then irrespective of the fact that we had someone scribbling notes, the secretary taking notes, invariably as a punishment, the consultant who entered or the team member, if you're a manager also, it doesn't matter, you have to take the minutes, and we're responsible for sending it across. So it sent a very good signal to all. None of us wanted to get caught in what we thought is something that we didn't want to do, but good lesson early on. Great to have, I see people are still joining in, and really, Meena and I think we have gone, we go a little way back. So it's always a pleasure, and I've been wanting to do this for a while, but something or the other comes and there's never a good time. In the meanwhile, I'm not sure if my team has been able to send that presentation, because I thought, rather than just seeing me, it's good to kind of, keep your interests going by sharing some of the thoughts. And again, it's a very hastily put across thoughts, but I thought this would also help frame. We have maybe half an hour, I guess, because since we ran late, and I want it to be meaningful, and I want to quickly go through, and I would like you to also ask me questions. I think one of the things that is very important is people to be curious and ask questions, right? And there is never a wrong question, especially and something I believe, maybe it's cultural, that in this part of the world we are not trained to do. We are trained to, even if we are trained to be silent, we are trained to take it, and if we even have a question, we worry whether what will somebody else think about it, or is it relevant, or am I saying something that is not so especially at the youngsters that you all are, and the age that you're all, please feel free. This is the time to ask questions, and there are no stupid questions, right? Everything is good. So if the presentation has hopefully come, we can.
Yes, ma'am, I got it. Shall I start sharing?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Yeah, so you're uploading, right? Yeah, perfect. I'm not yet viewing it. Perfect. Yeah. So this was the topic given, and I thought that what I would like to discuss is that transition, a very critical time, and especially I think post COVID. We really have changed the way we look at things, right? And as I'm assuming a lot of you are still coming out of campuses and colleges, and this is a time where you also hear worrying headlines like nobody's hiring freshers anymore, and that means there is extra pressure on you guys to find the right step forward, or the first job is it's a major milestone in your life, right? So I just wanted to quickly touch base on some of the things that I have also helped me, right? And it doesn't matter if you're just coming out of campuses or you are a CEO of a company at this point, and Meena touched upon it, is stay curious, right? You can go to the next slide. And also continuous learning. We can go to the first slide. I'm glad to see there is Ask AI Assistance, but I think you'll have to scroll down since it's a PDF. Yeah, so we'll start with this, right? This applies across the board. Doesn't matter if you're, 18, 20, doesn't matter if you're 50 years old. There is nothing called someone who knows everything. I mean, maybe ChatGPT can start to vie for that title, but even then it needs a human intervention there to make it really good, right? But the point, and this was said by Satya Nadella, and I'm assuming, and I mean, if it was an interactive session, I would have asked, but, I don't think there is anybody who does not know Satya Nadella. He is the CEO of Microsoft. And one of the most impactful tech leaders, I would say, of all time, right? Like along with some of the others, like Sundar Pichai. I'm talking about some Indians, right? But Satya Nadella is the one. 2014, he became the CEO of Microsoft. And he literally, at a time when Microsoft was starting to lose relevance, he turned it around. So now if you look at what's the most valuable company in the world, especially when we talk about AI and AI agents, Microsoft will be on top of that list. And it was all because of this gentleman here who has transformed the business model, this is a statement that he actually told his teams, right? Because that is the only way in an industry which is where tradition is not what you respect, but innovation is more respected, right? This is what you need to be. You need to be constantly learning. And so whether it is a Microsoft or whether it is my own organization, we are a product company now turned into a platform enabled company. That means we have a roster of products that help in banking, modernizing and transforming banking. We also need to stay curious and alert and constantly reinventing ourselves. Our competition is not with somebody else. It is within ourselves, and it's also with what we can do and how can we improve on our own roster of products, which would help banks. And when I say banks, would help the customers of banks, which is everyone around on this call. So if you go to the next slide, I just want to talk about, I know Meena already talked about that, but I've spent, you will start counting my age, but I've spent around 22, almost 23 years of my career, right, across various across sectors, but primarily most of the sectors I have been in, whether it's automobile, whether it's across consulting, whether it's government, now it's banking, is something that has always been enabled by technology. So technology has been that underlying feature, right? That has enabled transformation in the various industries or the companies that I have been part of. I've also spent a majority of my career in consulting, whether it was with KPMG or PwC. I started my career in North America. So I didn't start here. I went abroad. I did, in 2000, the rage was doing masters in computer science or something like that. And I realized that is literally not my area. I don't like coding. I did a webmaster certificate. I thought that's not my thing. But it ended up that I was still hired by an IT company. And where I got a chance to, based on a project that I did, the CEO liked, and I got absorbed into the CEO's office. It was a Canadian headquartered company, and they took me over to Toronto, and I started working with them. So the company I started off literally my as a senior analyst was called CGI. Quite big now. They have multiple offices in India as well. That set the stage, and where, I was part of a team that was developing an offshore outsourcing model and global delivery model, in which, most of you will know about and aspire to be part of in terms of the companies that work out of India. And then, over the last 10, 15 years, I've progressively held multiple leadership roles, including in Nissan, where I was was the MD, and when Nissan came, they reached out to me, and I was responsible for setting up the hub in Trivandrum. And then, I took a sabbatical as well for 2 years. I thought, after 20 years, I needed one. Went to Spain, went back to school, did some courses, did a program with Kellogg's School of Management, and then came back and joined Zafin. Again, multiple roles were there, but I liked Zafin for what the opportunity was to build and scale it up to a global company there, India region. So, which is what I'm doing right now. So it's been quite an interesting journey for me. I love what I do. And I think that is something all of you should. I mean, there are of course days, when you do want to sit at home and not do anything. But I think if you like what you do, and that is what you learn as you go through, then it becomes very interesting, right? Because you then try to do something that improves yourself and betters what you do on a daily basis. So you're not competing with anybody else, you're competing with yourself, right? So I am absolutely, like, what we are going right now, we are in the age of AI, you all know it. I'm sure most of you have ChatGPT on your phone or DeepSeek or whatever that you follow. In Zafin, we are like I said, we are a banking technology company. We are a completely software as a service model company, which means we run on cloud. And the important thing that we do is we help banks transform, which means banking should be as easy as buying a cup of coffee. If you want to start an account, a banking account, it should take you just a few seconds. And that is possible not because of the beautiful digital screens that they put up in front. It's not the front end, but it's the back end and the middle end, the core. And we work on the core. We transform the core or multiple cores. So that is what we do. We are in a transformation journey. And even my previous role when I was running Nissan Digital, that was also automobile transformation, where, the car has become a software on wheels. So that was a different transformation, but within, the automobile industry. Something else I'm passionate about is talent. In fact, as we scale up India, the biggest challenge is people, finding the right people. All of the companies have that as one of their biggest priorities, because what makes companies successful is not just it's not the products or what you build, that of course, but it's the people who build it, right? Like, you need to have the right people, the right talent in. And at Zafin, I've started a program called Elite Talent, which means that we pick the right talent for us, who we think are elite for the work that they do. And that means high performance. And high performance is not extended working, but smart working, right? And focus on outcomes. So I can talk about it a little later. And of course, technology. Right now, like I said, always be curious, always never be an, know-it-all. I am actually, and sometimes I do wonder why I signed up, but I am actually doing a course on the side in AI in leadership, because if I'm running a company, I need to know how I'm integrating AI and what are the different. So it's a mixture of the technical parts of AI, the different models and how they're built, and all of that, plus the business part of it, right? Embedding it into your day-to-day operation. So I'm doing that, and I'm a student literally like you guys with Wednesday deadlines. Not easy when you're full-time working, but I managed to do it. But the point is that we need to be always curious, always learning. If we stop, I think we don't grow, and we will be soon replaced. And that is when the machines replace us, right? Or somebody else who is smarter and who can do all of this will replace us. Next slide, please. We'll go a little quickly. So I've already said this, I've worked across geographies. Bulk of my career has been in North America. I moved to India and really started working in India in 2014, and that was also because my family is here. So I'm married to an IS officer, so he was here, and we had to choose who, and obviously he's not moving. So I came back, and I've not regretted it, because I think India is the place to be in terms of the growth, the opportunities, the speed, and the scale at which things are moving. So for me, this 10 years, 10 plus years has been a whirlwind, right? And really great opportunities to work on. And what you should also know is, your career is, it's not a ladder. It's not like one step after the other, right? It goes all over the place. Like I myself, right? I started off, I wanted to be in advertising. I did my internship in advertising in Amratapuri Lintas, and I was pretty sure that that is where I need to be. And that was my calling. But somehow fate landed me in technology. Where I've not, as Meena pointed out, I have a background in psychology and business, but I ended up being completely running technology companies, right? I mean, obviously, I had to upskill in a lot of ways, but still, it is quite an interesting journey. I also realized that there are some things I like, there are some things I don't like, there are some things that I'm better at, and you need to keep on adjusting that and finding that, right, and moving constantly. So I've had stints in government, I had stints in consulting really gives you that foundational structure, which I think for me, and which I really value, because that kind of foundational guidance for anyone who's coming out of college, I think they really shape you. And so and they allow you to think on your feet. Especially I'm talking about the big four, the big strategy companies. They train you to think like that. They train you to pivot. You're agile. You have a multiple different kinds of projects, cross industries thrown at you. You have to take responsibility. You have to take leadership. So that was very good training ground. So, but more than a decade and a half, I thought, I need to do something else. And that's when, industry came calling and I moved to the industry side. But again, it's about finding your, what is the thing that you're good at, and then recognizing that, and then trying to reinforce that through multiple learning. So that's something, I'm sure most of you, you are on start of your career, but you will go through. Next slide. Yeah. And if I were to go back and tell my 20-year-old self, right, like it's been a couple of decades now, it is okay not to have it all figured out. Like I said, when I was 25, I wanted to be an account exec and an account manager. And I thought that was the greatest thing. I mean, I still do like it. I still do enjoy the creative side of things. But I do enjoy also what I'm doing right now, because we are going through the technology industry, or any industry for that matter. So I'm at the intersection of banking and technology. One of the industries that is going through the greatest transformation, right? So the kind of learning you do every day is pretty mind-boggling. And I'm also saying that is, 2 years ago, I also became like maybe in a year and a half ago, you've seen my other role. So I play dual roles in Zafin. So Zafin is a global company. We have a headquarters in Canada, but we are also owned by a private equity called Nordic Capital, which is, they have 33 billion in assets. They're based in the Nordics, in Denmark, and basically so they have invested in us. And for us, when we look at it, is technology is one, but be it any industry, right? That transformation is real. So especially when it's time around AI, you have to constantly focus on building skills. And I find that when we are trying to embed AI into our normal operations, what happens, what is important is the human part of it. So which means it's not just IQ, because IQ you can build on your skills. It's the EQ part of it, right? So the emotional quotient is as important as the IQ part of it. And when we interview people, we look at that. Is that a cultural fit? Are there any red flags in the behavior aspects, in the way they communicate? These are all things we evaluate, right? Because at the end of the day, skills can be taught, but behavior, attitude cannot be. That's something kind of inborn. It's very difficult to change that, right? Coming back to when I was talking about my dual role, so I run the India operations. We have around 435 employees, full-time employees, and another 120 or so contractors. So fairly, and we have 2 offices in India, Chennai and Trivandrum. But I also have a global role as part of the global leadership team representing India. I also manage our sustainability and ESG. And ESG, if you, for some of you who don't know, it stands for environment, social, and governance. 3 big important aspects of a company that runs with a greater purpose in mind, right? And it's all important, as you know, because climate change is real. Whatever certain people may say, it is real. It is impacting us. We have seen that happen in our own backyards. So along with countries, it's important that every company also takes responsibility. And what we have done is we are members on something called UNGC, which is the United Nations Global Compact, which is part of a signatory. We have signed a forum to say that we will be very careful with what we produce in terms of the emissions, the impact on our local communities, and we report on that, we get audited on that. And the fact is we are owned by a private equity company who also values that. So ESG and sustainability is reported at the board level for us. It's a board level commitment. It's a board level commitment to our portfolio investors, right? And what I was talking about, the reason I came to it is, yes, sustainability and climate, yes, I always had a passion for it, but it's something I built, and it's something that I'm always learning. I'm not an environmental scientist, but I need to also understand what does net zero mean, right? How do I achieve that? What does science-based targets mean, right, for a company? I have to do it myself. I mean, obviously Nordic and others do give trainings, but it's a lot of on me to say, how do we calculate emissions? How do we, I mentioned yesterday, a little while ago, that we run on cloud. What does that mean? We run on data centers. There is nothing infrastructure that is there, physically there, storing our thing, right? It's all in the cloud. So that means, then you think, where are the emissions? The emissions are from the data centers that host the cloud, right? So we calculate that. We try to turn those energy running those data centers, which is a lot of electricity and water. We try to manage that. We partner with Microsoft to do that, because we run on their data centers. So it's such an interesting world. And even our products, for that matter, we look at what is the impact? What is the carbon footprint it leaves? And banks, by the way, globally, this is a big and important chunk, because their customers, you and me, are also worried about what happens to the planet. So, if I'm buying a purchase, I'm buying something, I would like to be also acknowledged that I'm buying a purchase that has been created with the right intention in mind. Like, for instance, it's sustainable, right? Sustainable. So does the bank reward me for that? Do they calculate the carbon footprint that I'm creating? Would they give me some incentive points to go to? So it's such an amazing world. There is so much to learn. And in fact, one of the things that will have to be extremely, extremely critical as we go around, because, when President Trump came into power, there was this whole thing where a lot of companies kind of pulled back, but they haven't actually stopped it. Maybe in America, they have stopped shouting it out loud, but in Europe and some of the other regions, we are still managing. In fact, in India as well, right? In India, we have a 2070 net zero goal for the whole country. But if you are, one of the larger companies on the what do you call the NASDAQ is coming to my mind, but of course the Indian version of it, you need to be able to report on your emissions. So these are things, and these are different sets of skills. And again, the underlying thing that brings all this data, and again, we're dealing with a lot of data, is technology. So everything is kind of connected in that matter. So one of the things, before I move to the next file, is we talked about something before, is curious, you all know, building skills, learning, EQ. One other thing is visibility. And that's a challenge these days, right? And something that I tell my youngsters, like the freshers who are in our organization. Because, for instance, if you know, pre-COVID, we all worked in the office, right? We come there once in a while. We get the order off day to work from home. But what I realized is a lot of you who may have gone through online training or online classes only and come into a workplace, you find it completely overwhelming. And what is important is that when you are behind screens, people only see one dimension of yours. They don't know the real you. They don't know the full strengths, your full potential. So when you come into a corporate world, you are graded on what they see. Unlike a teacher who may spend more time to get you and has been over the years, that is not there in corporate. And you have to make an impact very quickly. That is where visibility matters, right? So we talk about hybrid. It may be 3 days in office. It may be 4 days, 5 days in office, but you need to be present. You need to be seen. That is also very important. You need to speak up, right? Like I said, as I started with that, no bad questions, no silly questions. You are always welcome to ask. And do your research, right? If you're coming into meetings, you should do your research. But you should always be curious. It goes back to the first thing. So couple of things that you need to always remember. And one last thing, and I said, not just curious, is everything is important. Like, even if you think it is small and trivial, it teaches you something, right? The lessons, like when I was running late and I was kicking myself, and especially when there was this whole issue with the presentation, I'm like, that is one of the first things I learned as a consultant, right? Always be prepared, which I didn't have time, and I was very cool about it, but it helps you, right? So that these are some of the things I always tell myself. And I have also pivoted in my journey multiple times. I've taken sabbatical in between, very late into my career, and everyone thought, you are at the CXO level, why would you do that, right? Like, that is kind of writing away. But it helps you give a different perspective. So it doesn't matter. You should do what is right for you, but you should not give up something. Like, you should still be open and learning, right? That is extremely important. We can go to the next slide. I think we are running very late now. Please go ahead. Yeah, and quickly I will just see, right? And I'm sure most of you know this, and especially when you transition from campus to corporate, you're coming in from safe zones where everything is highly structured. Your curriculum, your courses, you have information put in front of you, the way it's instructed, right? Grading, it's comfort, right? Like you have friends around you. When you're moving into corporate, it's going to be very different. There are multiple things. You need to be a multitasker, right? Some people still have challenge, and there is a debate on whether it's good to be multitasker or not. But at least you need to have different things going on at the same time. It may not be one at a time. As a fresher, yes. But what we did at Zafin, we have a program called Zafin Acceleration Program, ZAP. That is, we hire very limited number of freshers, right? Like every 2 years. Last year ago, we went, and we are very picky with who we choose. It is not just IQ, but EQ, and how they can, because in 3 months, they are starting to work on small projects, right? Like they are put in front of a client. So we look at a whole lot of things. And we train them the first 3 months, and none of the freshers are, by the way, allowed to work from home, because we said they have to connect with people, and they need to learn, and they need to ask questions, and there's a lot of training and all that given to them. But there is also a lot of ambiguity. So people may not necessarily have the time, unlike in a campus, to teach you through that and take you through that, right? You have to self-learn. Like, we have a fantastic program called Zafin University. Enterprise learning at Zafin is also under me. But that requires discipline for you to go and sit there and do the self-help, because nobody is going to instruct you throughout. Only if the business absolutely requires something, they will. But otherwise, you are expected to learn and come and sit there and do your thing. So that initiative has to happen from you. The other thing is, these days, when you have AI doing 30% of your job, 30-40%, we have efficiencies created by AI that are easily 30 to 40% now in every role, because we have something like a ChatGPT, enterprise ChatGPT. We have tied up with OpenAI, and it's given to every single member in our organization, everyone, right, irrespective of the level. So that means everybody is on equal footing. If you're a coder, you're given Cursor AI and Codex. That is for you to, not to completely forget coding, but to get those efficiencies so that the additional human value is what you're bringing. So you have more time to think and think of the customer's problems, think of what you're solving. And because the AI will do the coding, the basic coding for you anyway, right? And why we are doing this? Because it's no longer about outputs that you're giving. It's about outcomes. You're measured on outcomes. As a fresher, yes, that might be smaller, but as you go up the value chain, as you grow, the entire question that I ask is, if I'm putting money on something, what is the return on investment that I get? Right? The same question is also asked of me as a leader. What is the return on, what is the outcome? How have you helped the client? How have you solved their problem? How have you helped an operational thing, resolve an operational thing? So it is all about outcome. It is not about, like, if I say, oh, I worked 10 hours, I worked 14 hours. Okay. Are you working smartly? Because we don't want you to, have a unbalanced life. We want you to have a very work-life balanced, in a balanced way, where you will also take care of your health, find time to play, find time to socialize, but also come back to the, create outcomes. So you need to start thinking of that. And then that growth zone, right? Growth zone mix, and this is something I really, really like, is, growth and comfort do not coexist. So that means you're coming in from a area which was, other than your exams, mostly, quite easy, into a growth zone where you are going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be put in uncomfortable situations. You are going to be asked questions. You are expected to meet deadlines, timelines, all of those things. So be prepared for that. But if you enjoy what you do and you set yourself up the right way, it's going to help. And we have, we did a video. I don't know if you are on LinkedIn, you will see. And this was not a trained, like I told my guys, and they all know working with me, that I am very active on LinkedIn. I'm very active, and I say, take a phone and take a video, because I'm not waiting for a very structured, scripted versions. I like people talking naturally, right? So I went to I said, answer me 3 questions on why do you like Zafin? Why do you like that? Because I'm going to put it up on LinkedIn. And the interesting thing, and why I'm saying this, is one of the people, and you will see at the end of the video, there's someone called Nikhil, and he will speak to it. And he was a fresher, right? Like maybe 6 months into the job. And he articulated it something so well, not scripted at all. This young, fresher, young gentleman, and in a better way than I think most people who have experienced. And I said, you know what? That is what I want to hear, because it came in from his heart, and he spoke about it so well, about the learnings and all that, and I put it up. But the idea is that they are quickly adapted, right? And that is what you will be forced to do, and people see that very quickly, because you get to stand out. What is your value? What is your identity? How are you driven? And in a company, when we are a product company, we don't hire volumes like Infosys or the Wipros of the world. We hire very limited number of people, but that limited number of people are building products that drive a lot of things, right? So that product mindset or a platform mindset is very different. So we look at certain skill sets. So you need to be prepared. If you're planning to go into those lines, you need to start researching yourself and finding out what floats the boat, right? What will get you in? Because I always also look at exceptional freshers. Because the reason why we don't hire freshers is there is this thing that you will have to spend not just the 3 months of our ZAP program, but they will take 6 months to 8 months to maybe a year to settle in. But the right guys are already, like, these days I find 15-year-olds doing, tinkering with AI. They probably know how to code well and things like that. So if there is that, and they have far more resources than, say, when I was growing up, right? I never thought I would say this, but yeah, it's true. So we look at that, and if there is exceptional and ones who are curious and wants to learn, then we bring them on board, right? So there is still that window there. If you go to the next slide, we are almost ending. You can quickly move. Next slide, please. Yeah. And just to quickly say, right, these are things I already talked about it. is one is, of course, communication. And I said that visibly along with capability. The question, it's not the bad question, it's how you articulate. So that communication, you need to understand, you should research and come and do your questions, right? So you should know. And deeply listening is also important. Only if you listen, you can ask the right questions. Then we already talked about growth mindset, right? Learn, unlearn, relearn, like something that is, and for you, this is very good. You are a AI generation, basically. So it's easier for you, but you also need to train your mind as you go along. And then at the end of the day, people who see you as reliable, like we recently ran a elite talent hunt. That was like a talent recruitment drive. And I said, I want it very different from anything that anybody has seen. And the experiences, whether you get the job or not, the person who comes in and walks out should have an extremely good view of what happened that whole day, right? Because they have wasted their time and come in. So if they have put their hours in, depending on whether you got the job or not, it could be seen as a wasted effort or a good effort. So I said nobody should go home as a wasted effort. They should have something to learn. So, and what made it extra special was some of these freshers who had joined us from campuses like 7-8 months back, and they brought in that energy and they were so eager to learn. And they were the ones talking. They're like brand ambassadors for the organization. So we need people like that, because that is extremely important. So that is one thing. If you can go next. Yeah. And finally, you should have a corporate compass, right? You're starting to now think differently, not just you're in a campus. You cannot be task oriented. And believe me, this is not something I just say to the freshers. There are still a lot of grown, experienced folks who think like that. Task. Task doesn't lead to outcomes. It leads to outputs. Outputs is not what you're looking for. You should think of overall business. What is the role this plays? I'm building a product. Like we are building 2 big products, 2 of our flagship products out of India. How does that help banks? You should understand what the banking challenges are. You can't just talk about, okay, I'm just using this. I'm using Java, Flink, all of that to code, and I'm sending this and it fixes a certain. That is not how you think. You think the bigger thing. Also, remember, you should always have good mentors. And in Zafin, we have instituted something and we are just rolling that out. We always have a buddy program, but sometimes, depending on the buddy, it works or not. But what I'm trying to do is, especially new joiners who are coming, even if you're experienced, and we have some complex products that we built, and it's very difficult for someone to come in and absorb and get that, even if you're a lateral hire. So we have a buddy who is in your project, in your peer group, all of that. And we also have a coach who could be not your direct manager, but someone who is your, still one level up, or someone else who is seen as someone who can mentor kids, mentor youngsters or new joiners, because that helps them bridge the knowledge gap when they come into an organization. That's something we have just started to do and we are rolling out. Also, campuses, you can say what you want, you can skip, but in corporates, whether you like it or not, there is still a lot of performance management and that kind of driven. And, even if it is matrix, and sometimes, you need to listen to you, and you always have to listen to your manager or even your peer group. You need to be taking feedback. That's where the listen deeply comes in. You can also, if something is not floating your boat, you should say it, but in a very constructive way. I often have, I connect with, and I'm currently on this mission to meet every single employee of Zafin, so get their feedback. So I do it 5 at a time, 1 at a time, people managers connect, all of those. But the idea is that sometimes some people, they don't want to listen. And as corporates, sometimes we don't want to listen. And when I'm sitting at my level, I don't get to listen. I get only certain feedback. So this way, once you put the comfort in, they start to open up. And some of the feedback that comes in, and I tell them, keep it constructive, right? Because I also know that we're generally very careful. We listen to what they want, because the employee experience has to be good. And the point is, sometimes, some very good feedback comes in from very junior folks. It takes a while for them to open up, and they realize that, nobody's going to harm them. This is good. Because I always tell my teams, whether it was at Nissan or here or even before, is, you need, as leaders, we need to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's like that Clint Eastwood movie, right? Because just hearing the good, we are never going to grow. You're never going to improve. You're never going to fix the broken, right? The bad is tough to swallow. Don't want to hear that, but I rather hear it than I hear it somewhere outside, or And these days you have Glassdoor and all these wonderful platforms, and there I find that it's a challenge because either you have to tell people to put it, because very rarely would people who are happy go and put something. It's usually if you have but I said I still will not force anybody to go and put it, right? Because whenever they feel like putting it, because so sometimes the glass door kind of things you can't do much about, but the point is where we really make a difference is listening to our own employees. So if they say work-life balance is suffering, we look at what is the cause. Is there something that we can fix? Are we working as a team? Because one thing, I think this was kind of a mindset that was there always, and it's not just with Zafin, but I find that people sometimes sitting in India, and because I work on both sides, we see that, tend to think that we are taking, whereas the people sitting in the northern hemisphere think they are giving, right? And so what that matters is then you don't work as one team, you work at two different levels. There is a inequality there already. That is when things start. So I always tell the team, this is an extended team, it's follow the sun. So when those guys are logging in, you guys are handing over and you're going back. I mean, of course, we have production issues, challenge, all those things, we all work throughout. But the point why I'm saying this is, these are things that you will learn as you grow, right? It's about one global team working together. So a lot of good things, and you will learn. And go to the next slide. Yeah, I've already said this. I don't think we need to think at the beginning. Like I said, we are a global company. So all of this kind of things are very important because there are people who are working, some of them do night shift, because you have on building products. It's not a BPO. It's a product company. It's a platform company, but we need people who understands both sides. So they will be working on a banking product, which the team from here needs to also build it together. It's working together, right? So there are shifts, there are things like that, and we are rapidly hiring. We are actively hiring good talent in both Trivandrum and Chennai, and we are moving and we are expanding. We are actually in 2 weeks moving to a new space in Trivandrum. If you're from Trivandrum, people would know the new Taurus Embassy building. We are going into the 7th floor of that. So a lot of things happening. But the idea is, for Zafin, and what I do like and what I get to build is, we deeply focus on a culture of learning, sustainability, wellness. All those things are very important for us, and we bake that into our everyday bit, along with technology. Technology happens anyway. Go next. I think we are almost there. Yeah. And so finally, I think I'm down to the last maybe 1 or 2 slides. I have said a lot of things, but the point is, when you start to think about it, what you should do is, as you get into, and doesn't matter, you don't need to become a manager to do this. You can do this from day one, right? When I'm given something, even if it is small, or even if it's something just to learn, right? Based on that, what is the value that I will add? Am I taking ownership of a little task? Because at your level, when you get in, obviously, until you learn, it is a lot about task based. But is it am I owning it? Am I accountable for it? And you should always ask, am I learning something new pretty much every day? Right? We actually give learning hours, 8 hours, but sometimes people say it's so busy, there's no time. Right? Which is true, but you will have to figure out time. You will have to carve out some time. It can be like through podcasts, and learning doesn't have to be like sitting in front of a computer and doing. It can be podcasts, it can be reading something, it can be doing, it can be signing up for a course, all sorts of ways. But either way, make sure that you get something new every day. That is very important when we are. And I don't just mean Instagram memes. Those things are funny, but they're not going to teach you so much. And I think we have come to the last slide. I think if you can, yeah. So this is where it is. We have run out of time because we started late. Wherever you go, whichever career you choose to do, whichever sector you choose to do, it can be public, private sector, doesn't matter. Don't just let it be for, okay, I want my paycheck, right? Because the moment you have that, I think the fun goes out of the window. I think you need to IMP is, I think, ACT. I think somehow my designers followed, but that is okay. It's you should see how in your little ways you can make an impact, right? Because then people you start to see them come through. That visibility comes in. You should believe in your own skills, what you bring to the table. You don't need to compare with anybody else. You're in your own lane and you're in your own path, and you should chart your own path, right? And you should always remember humility. I would also say humor, and always deal with empathy, because you don't know what, even if a grouchy guy you're dealing with, you don't know what they are going through, right? So have that, and have that humility that no job is beneath you. Because at the end of the day, I always see, right, like that is so important. It can be the watchman, but if he doesn't watch and an intruder comes in, we are not going. So you have to have that humility and treat everybody with respect, and have a sense of humor, because at the end of the day, we are not maybe like doctors, we are not dealing with life and death. Okay, especially from the business way, it is okay to lay back, sit back and have a laugh at yourself also. So that is important as you go. So I wish you all well. I wish you the courage, the clarity in your pursuit of happiness, I guess, in your careers, and a fantastic career. So thank you for having me. It's been and I hope there are some questions. If there is time, I'm happy to answer that. Otherwise, look me up on LinkedIn. Thank you.
So I have a question I'll start off. Suja, when you, as you were growing in your career, how did you make the choices of deciding? You said, okay, you wanted to be in advertising, but realized early on that probably was not, or you inadvertently moved to something different. So youngsters today are also having this mind-boggling kind of array of choices which are there. So one tip that you have used, something that from your life you have decided, this is an easy way to follow, or this is the way I can take up the care. Take a choice.
No, good question. And advertising, I didn't leave it because I didn't think it was something I liked, but I did like it. But it's just that circumstances moved me to another country, and there the opportunities was different. Like I still initially thought I would go back, but it was something else. And the first opportunity that opened up, because the professor of mine at the university I was studying invited me to work with him on it was a pro bono basis. I used to drive 35 miles one way. It was the US, and I get nothing paid for it, but they did sponsor my H1B, and then all of that. And the important thing is, you don't know. Like at 25, I was still clueless. I didn't know about, and I just knew I didn't want IT really, to be honest. But yet now I'm advocating for technology, because it's become the underlying underlier of everything. But some coaches, right? Now you have the term coaching and coaches. There was really not things like that, maybe 25 years ago. You were on your own, but you had some good managers or mentors you could talk to, who opened, who believed in you more than you believed in yourself. I was fortunate because of that, especially in consulting. There was one gentleman I worked with. He was associate partner at that time, going into partner track, and I was a senior consultant. And the first time he said, you can do this. This was in Canada. I was in Toronto at that point of time, for a client, government client. And he said, Suja, you should lead this. You should go on your own. And I'm like, I have never done this. I don't think I can. So all of this, and then he said, no, you'll figure it out. You can do it. You should have confidence in yourself. And the point is, what I thought I couldn't do, he pushed me into it. I had no other. And in consulting, we have this wonderful saying called sink or swim. So I was left to that, where, obviously then that fight mode comes into play. And I said, okay, I need to figure this out, right? And that is when it started to open, because, otherwise you take it through 1 year, take it all this, I don't think, I need, you hide behind, right? And really, I did hide behind, even if I get a little confidence burst, I would still go back and I will question my decision. So imposter syndrome, whatever it is, right? I think in my 20s, I was that. There were a lot of, I would really say I really started to believe in myself and my own confidence and what I'm giving is when, in my mid 30s, really. I was like, otherwise I will write and give, and I would give it, and I can, but I'm like, should I not? Is it just, I was being comfortable, something that I was not used to, but I still preferred. But some of the mentors, thankfully, like that Korean partner, said, you should come out of your shell. What is going on? Like, they recognize. So if you have some good allies at your organization, which I was fortunate to, I get some great they see the potential and they put you on. And I do the same now. If I see, I will give it, because at the end of the day, you have to believe. And that is why I say, like, today's youngsters are much more confident. And they have much more, I think they grow up in a very different generation. So I think that helps. Having a mentor helps. And it's also by, even if you find it, like I said, no, growth and comfort don't grow together. So I had this thing where I wanted to, so I had that little in, like, I want to grow, I'm not comfortable. Like, I get bored very easily with the same repetitive thing. So I want to do the next, what is the next pair? Like, how do I build something? Whatever I give has to be really good. Those kind of things were always in me, but so that kind of opened and you started to see the possibilities, right? That is how, and then it's been quite, but it's a journey. It's a learning. You need to, that is why all this visibility, and you need to focus on outcomes. You need to able to communicate what you did with that, the value that came out of those things. If you just think that somebody else will recognize it and reward you, nobody's going to do it. Only in very rare instances they will. But otherwise, no, you are your own person who needs to pull yourself up.
Yeah, thanks, Suja. That's any other questions, anybody? So you mentioned about technology being important and being the underlying, like it is something which is going to impact every single one of us. So is there any specific trend other than the banking sector which you are in now? How else are you looking at technology and how youngsters can foresee what they will be doing? Because they're learning something, but it may not be the exact thing that they're going to work with, right? You also, you studied something, but you probably will be working in something entirely different. So how much learning should they do and get prepared for the careers that they want to choose or the job market?
Correct. I mean, if you are in computer science, we hire a lot of computer science folks, right? So it is already set, your course curriculum. That will set you into the first level you're coming in, because we'll test you on your Java skills, and we still put more training for you. Those first 3 months are like a lot of training, like QA, Java, the domain, because banking is quite complicated, things like this. If you're going into technical skills, a technical consultant, you're going into that route, then it's certain technical skills that are important to us. See, the skills keep changing. So which means that, you need to keep updating, right? Like some of this, if you're in the tech, I'm talking from a technology point of view. But again, that is where AI is starting to make a difference. Why? Because if you have a tool that can code for you, what you need to know is how to provide the right prompts for it to code. Right? So that's a different thing. The softer skills come into play, thinking how, and AI is not as simple as you write something and it's going to give it to you and you're going to present it. No, you need to know your domain. You need to have a viewpoint. Otherwise you will not get what prompt is just not typing an instruction. It is how to get elicit the best out of it, and you will be able to, you are the final human element who's going to say, okay, this makes sense. This is not flicked from somewhere else. This is not, because AI tend to hallucinate. So, you have to be very careful, and you have to put your wing. So the idea is that that these kind of technical skills will change, and and relevance will also be based on the sector you go. But there is a set of skills that are I'm talking about languages, right? Technical which are now quite popular everywhere, like cloud technologies, right? Most of them are now on cloud and moving to and having, so Azure, AWS, Google, all those kind of certifications, depending. Like in Zafin, we mostly take Azure folks, because that is the platform with which we run, right? So we want Azure. It could be cyber security. You saw how tight my IT guys have made it, and I can send it to anybody. But the point is, when the system comes into play and you're trying to do the system, unless I have planned for it and informed, then it will come in. Because we get phishing mails. There are pictures of our CEO or global CEO of myself, like asking, and people, and there are so many um, emails that come in that really mirror. You have to be extremely, so we have mandatory courses that we make people take in info security, because one person accidentally clicking a wrong link is enough to jeopardize not just us, but maybe our clients and partners and things like that. So cybersecurity is big. Data and the math, the statistics, all of those things, because we are dealing with AI, we are dealing with big data, we're dealing with analytics, and skills could, all of these could be and keep changing. But fundamentally, if you're in a product company or a platform, you need to have the product mindset. What is the product mindset? Product mindset is, again, focusing on outcomes, asking questions on why something should be created, because is there a gap that we are trying to fill? You have to ask the questions standing in the position of a client or a customer, or thinking of it like as a user, how would you find? So product mindset is something that is curious, learning, right? Like recently I asked one of our product managers who are hiring, I said, Teresa, you give me answer to 3 questions. What is the role that you're hiring for, right? What are the type of skill sets? And that could be technical, functional, or even your soft skills, right? What is it that you're looking for? And you described to me in 6 months, very briefly, I said, I want a 30 seconds video. In 6 months, how will you define impact or success, or what are the expected outcomes? You define that for me, and that is the job ad. Because I don't want people just randomly scanning and reading through pages and pages of a job description, which it will go somewhere. They will only look at the skills. I want them to understand that when we are hiring elite talent, you need to look at certain things and come in. So skills and technologies keep changing. So it's very difficult to say. I mean, Java and all have been around for a while, and that will continue. But look at COBOL. But we still look for COBOL because we have some of those mainframe and legacy systems that require. So you need that. But the point is, as technology, and because technology, like we build upgrades or product releases now every week, not months. In fact, it's coming to days. So, the speed at which these things change is, it's very difficult. So you can't say. So the basic understanding, basic mathematics, basic coding principle, you should know if it's a technology. The rest of it, people can, pick it up. The softer skills, the understanding. If you want to go to, you should know how banking works. You should pick up. You should listen to different things. If you, you need to know what's the difference between a checking account, savings account, how are they handled in the core. What is the core? How does different? Did you know that banks have multiple cores? So things like that, right? Like that's the functional, that the domain. So it depends on the domain that you're in. But more or less, you should also understand general principles of, that's where the soft skills come in. When the network is down, how do you handle that? Like, resilience is a skill you have to build, because you don't panic and immediately drop everything, right? Managing to prioritize is a skill. Communication, articulating your viewpoint is a big skill required by product management, required by customer onboarding folks, because how will you tell the client what you need, or the customer, or and client can be internal also, right? Like your boss, like how do you articulate? So all of this you have to build, right? And it is very competitive, because every company from Microsoft to a Google to Zafin to any of them, we are all going for that same small percentage of talent who come with all of this, because companies look at it like that, right? Who do I have to coach the least when they come in? to settle in. So, yeah.
You said it because we were helping companies to find talent, so everybody's fishing in the same pool.
So
It's
in fact,
getting
I said, stop fishing and go hunt.
hunt.
So what we do is, because you said it, right? We are all fishing from the same pool. It's difficult. So you go and look out for people, you
Talent and
follow
other.
people, you hunt for them,
Mm.
right? You persuade them.
Yeah.
You say, you show the value proposition. It's like a matchmaking now. It's different. Talent acquisition has changed. I'm looking for a talent acquisition individual. We have rejected so many again because you have to think very differently now. You have to think you can't think like a recruiter. I look at resumes, I scan resumes, AI does the job, puts in this thing and puts me in. No, that's
It won't
not going to
work.
work.
Yeah.
Right? You're looking at, we have a interview, a training session internally that if you're a panelist, if you're an interview panelist, you need to start doing now, because
Okay.
you need to identify the cultural fit, because these are all important, as you go along. So very, very different world that we are living in right now.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? I think everybody is probably wanting to call it a day.
It's been probably a long day for everyone. I have to also have one more meeting to go. So
Oh, okay. So then we should sort of keep it short.
yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. So Priya?
Okay, ma'am. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your valuable time with us today. So your thoughts on transitioning from campus to career was truly given us a clarity and motivation. Thank you so much. And thank you to the entire SkillActz team for putting up the effort to make this event possible. And also, thank you to all the participants who are being a part of this section today. Thank you so much. And I have attached a form in the chat box, so kindly fill the form to get the participation certificate. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Then thank you, Meena and the SkillActz team for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suja. It was a pleasure listening to you. You have tremendous energy at the end of the day, and you've got another meeting. So have a great session. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.